Good evening. Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Trey Olds Radio Show. My name is Trey Olds. I hope you all are well. Join us today as I interview very special guest, comedian Miss Jane Stroll. Thank you, and join us in a minute. Okay, my first question to you is, how did you get started becoming a stand-up comedian? How did you get started in comedy?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't like comedy when I was much younger. I had to be a dramatic actress, and I always was attracted to doing theater, but drama. And same with college, but I was better at comedy when I went to a fine arts school, Boston University, and I was just better at comedy. But I didn't care because I thought it was a lower art form, which it hardly is a lower art form. And somewhere along the line, coming back to New York, it's hard to remember for me what made me get on stage with my own words and my own, as a stand-up. But somewhere along the line, and I know I did it in Phoenix also because I lived there for a long time from New York City. I don't know what made me take that leap. I may have taken it in Phoenix where the audience were actually a little easier on one level and stupider, frankly, than the New York audience. But the New York audience is harder because they're pretty smart. So I made the transition, and once I did stand-up, I just liked it, even though it's a very difficult art form, I think.
Yeah. I've never done stand-up, but I love comedy, though. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. I agree with you. Now I totally agree. If you had gotten me when I was your age, I would not have agreed. But it was a different time, really. Mm-hmm. And there weren't that many stand-ups around. Very few compared to today. And there weren't that many comedy clubs. So it just was a very different time. Because I'm 100 years old, so taking that into consideration, I've seen the progression of the proliferation of comedy and comedy clubs. It's very interesting, really.
Yeah.
If I don't answer the question, just redirect me, because
you answered the question. You did.
Okay.
What is the most difficult part or the most challenging part being a stand-up comedian?
I think probably the most difficult part is my own head, because I thought I was too old. I knew I was funny, but I had this thing in my head, because comics at that point, and probably now too, were always younger. I was always older than most comics. So that was one of my barriers, thinking I'm too old, which is insane, because comedy does not know age, really. And the audiences were young. So I had, the most challenging thing was just the first time, it's hard to remember. The first time went very well. The very first time, I don't remember where it was, but it went so well, and if it hadn't, I never would have gotten back on stage. I always believe that the first time has to go well if you're going to continue, because if you bomb that very first time, why would one continue? I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And then the challenge was to keep doing it, and just keep doing it and doing it. And stop with in my head of I'm too old. Because I had a few friends who were my age, and they were kind of an inspiration. Female. Because I'm female, the female comics that I knew when I started were more support. And there were a few that were my age, or maybe a tiny bit older. And that was what gave me the confidence to stop thinking about age.
Yeah. Age is just a number,
Well, yeah, but it's also, it's a number, I agree, but you get up on stage, I'm obviously older, and people judge that very quickly, and then if you're funny, they stop judging.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah, being funny is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you still do comedy? Do you have any upcoming,
What I did is, I got back on stage 3 weeks ago, and I think it had been almost a year because of these knee replacements and medical issues. And coming back to New York and a lot of circumstances. But when I got back on stage 3 weeks ago, it was very different. It was easier, more fun, and made me want to do it again. So what I'm hoping to do is, of course, my elevator's out, and it's hard to get down the stairs 5 flights, so I may not do a Wednesday gig. It's, a very small amount of time. I got to the point I was doing 45 minutes, and now I'm doing 7 minutes or 5 minutes. So there's something on Wednesday. I don't know if I will do it. It's going to depend on if I can get there. And then there's something on Friday when this miserable elevator should be fixed. And that's a matter of getting the ride because it's not in the city. So I'm looking to those two possibilities. And then ultimately I'm looking to do a two-person show with a friend of mine who is older than I am. And he still does comedy, and I want to do it with him. So that would probably be June or September, because it's a matter of booking the room. So really it's this coming Wednesday and this coming Friday, and then, whatever turns up, whatever I find. So I guess that's upcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to keep busy, do what you can do,
Yeah, exactly. But it's, it's something that I like to do, and it can get very boring, being home with 2 cats who are sleeping all the time. Not great entertainment. They're okay when they're awake, but they sleep constantly. So this is what gives me pleasure.
Yeah.
Is writing the new material, refining the old material, and deciding what I'm going to do. So I'm pretty sure that I will find a way to get there Wednesday and then Friday. Although Friday is really dependent on somebody else who has a car.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll see. I take it, a day at a time. My life is different, so does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Good. Good.
What kind of genre of comedy? How do you come up with the comedic material? How do you...
My life. Totally my life. If it's not from my life, I can't write it. Everything that was in my act was true. And now it's about writing about my life now without making it depress people, because it doesn't depress me. So that's my material. Everything I ever wrote, even when I was in Phoenix, which was a cow town when I was there,
mm-hmm.
and not sophisticated at all. It was from my life. Everything I've ever done. So that's what I write from. Your life gives you a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you can look at it with humor, not depression, and pick out what you want to write about from your own life. That's what I do. And it's fun.
Yeah, it is. Your whole life
If it wasn't fun, why do it?
Yeah. Your whole life can be a book. You can make a whole...
Exactly.
I know what my life...
You're what? You're in your late 20s? How old are you?
I'm 18.
Oh, my God. Do you do stand-up?
No, although people think I am funny, I don't see it, but...
No, well, you might be. If enough people think you are, would you try it?
Sure, anything's possible,
Exactly. And you have a whole life ahead of you, so, definitely do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you're good at it, try it. If people think you're funny, you probably are.
Yeah, I've done stage acting, voice acting,
mm-hmm.
and I do the radio show, so comedy might be another good thing to put under my resume, that would be interesting.
Absolutely. And you have an interesting voice.
Thank you, I get that a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not tell your age from your voice. I know you're a guy. Your voice is not, high-pitched, I think you're a woman, but I could not tell your age at all from your voice. And it's interesting. Where are you from?
I'm from Louisiana, but I live in Mississippi.
Okay. I've never been to either place, but I had an important guy in my life who was from Shreveport, Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's as close as I got. So, interesting.
Yeah. What is, my next question is,
yes.
what is your advice to people who want to get into comedy? What is your advice to people who want to be a stand-up comedian?
My advice would be, they first of all just get together. I don't know what it would be, 3 or 5 minutes, because they won't give you much time.
Mm-hmm.
And then get on stage. Be secure in your material, or be a good ad-libber. If you go blank up there, which happens, particularly for beginners when you're nervous, be a good ad-libber. You can't stand there with, a mic in your hand looking puzzled and not saying anything. You have to be willing. It's really willingness and wanting to do it. Get on stage, go to an open mic where you won't be threatened. You have to start that way. And have your set in your head. People take papers up with them.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot. I never have done that. If it makes you secure, my advice would be do it. But then you start looking down instead of, you have to look out at that, at that mass that is called an audience. And you have to connect, not person to person. Sometimes when they scream out stuff, you might want to. But don't be stuck with the paper. If you bring it as a security, bring it, but don't be always looking down to that paper. It won't be good, and you won't have the right focus. So my advice would be do it. Get your little time together and just do it, and see if you really like it. Because that first time will tell you everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you bomb the first time, that's
pretty bad if you did that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you bombed that first time, I'm not sure you would go back for a second time. You have to feel good about that first time. And you could bomb the second time. Every comic has a slew of, bombings.
Oh, of course.
Even the famous ones.
Yeah.
And don't imitate anybody. That would be another piece of advice. Be who you are. Whatever your deal is. If you're old or young or fat or thin or, male, female, be who you are. Be who you are up there. A little enlarged, obviously, because it's a theatrical venue. So you can't be exactly who you are, but don't try to be someone else. Don't imitate any other comic, because you're going to bomb, and they're not going to like it, the audience.
Yeah.
That would be my advice.
Yeah, because the audience is your biggest fan, that's why they're here to see you, the audience, you have to depend on them, they make you, the audience.
That's right. And there are hard audiences, and there are easier audiences, and, New York is, I don't know about the South, because I think I worked in, where did I work? Atlanta. That's as South as I ever got. But I never worked in the deep South. I never worked Mississippi. I don't know what the audiences are like, but in New York, they're tough.
Yeah.
Because they're jaded. They've seen the best. There are comedy clubs all over the place. So if you're going to start with New York, if you're a New Yorker and my advice would don't start with New York. That would be my advice. If you can somehow start go to Connecticut, go to Jersey, go somewhere else, and then come back to New York, unless you're really confident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, New York should be the high or last stop in your, because...
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every comic that I worked with back then, they started somewhere else. And then they except for one person. Did you ever hear of Adrienne Tolsch?
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah. She's dead, and she's pity. She was not much older than I am, and she was hilariously funny. And I think she probably was always a New York comic. And she was married, she was married to Bill Sheff. You ever hear of him?
Once again, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I'm sure. Bill Sheff was really more of a writer. And he was very big into sports, and I don't know, he just was a very good writer, and she was a terrific comic. So I think there are people who start here. I wasn't one. I could never have started here. I didn't have the confidence, even though I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah. My next question is,
yes.
Do you have a favorite joke you've ever done, or do you have a favorite comedy routine you ever done, if you can remember?